Emily had always been the quiet one, often blending into the background at school and in social gatherings. Growing up in a small town, she had learned to observe rather than participate, finding solace in books and daydreams. Her parents encouraged her to embrace her uniqueness, but as she approached adulthood, Emily felt the weight of expectations pressing down on her. The thought of navigating the complexities of life, especially those involving her health, filled her with anxiety. At 19, Emily was on the brink of many new experiences. She had just graduated high school and was contemplating her future, but one looming task felt particularly daunting: her first visit to a gynecologist. The topic felt shrouded in mystery and discomfort, compounded by whispers among friends and vague advice from older relatives who approached it with an awkward hesitance. She couldn't help but feel a wave of apprehension wash over her every time she thought about the appointment. The day finally arrived, and Emily prepared herself with a mixture of dread and determination. She dressed carefully, opting for a simple sundress that made her feel slightly more confident despite the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. As she walked into the clinic, a place filled with bright colors meant to create a welcoming atmosphere, her heart raced. The sterile smell of antiseptic mixed with a hint of lavender from air fresheners only heightened her nerves. Sitting in the waiting room surrounded by other women, Emily felt painfully out of place. Each ticking second seemed to stretch into eternity as she clutched her phone tightly, hoping it would somehow provide comfort or distraction. But the reality loomed closer. Soon it would be her turn to confront not just the doctor but also the fears that had been building inside her for far too long. As the day of her appointment approached, Emily's unease deepened. Each passing hour felt heavy with the weight of her impending visit, and her mind raced with thoughts that spun into a tangled web of worries. She envisioned herself sitting on the examination table, feeling exposed and vulnerable, while a doctor she had never met looked at her in ways that made her skin crawl. The idea of discussing intimate topics filled her with dread, amplifying her fears about judgment and embarrassment. The stigma surrounding gynecological visits pressed heavily on her psyche. Conversations she'd overheard among friends often painted the experience in dark hues: tales of awkward examinations, uncomfortable discussions, and the general discomfort that filled those rooms. It was enough to make anyone anxious, but for someone as shy as Emily, it felt like an insurmountable mountain. The questions swirled in her mind: would she sound silly asking about things she didn't understand? What if she cried or panicked? The thought alone made her stomach churn. As she prepared for the appointment, Emily's usual routines became laden with distractions. She found herself staring vacantly at her phone or losing track of time while trying to immerse herself in a book that no longer held her interest. She practiced what she would say in front of the mirror, but each attempt only revealed how unprepared she felt. Encouragement from friends and family did little to lessen her worries. They spoke of the appointment as a normal part of life, yet to Emily, it felt like a rite of passage shrouded in daunting complexities. That morning, as she dressed in her sundress, her attempt to feel confident, she fought off thoughts that threatened to overwhelm her. Looking in the mirror one last time, she took a deep breath. This was an important step toward embracing adulthood, but doubt lingered like a shadow as she stepped out the door, ready to confront not just the doctor but also herself. As Emily stepped into the clinic, a wave of sensory overload hit her. The bright, cheerful colors of the waiting room clashed with the anxious thoughts swirling in her mind. Soft music played in the background, intended to soothe, but it only heightened her awareness of how out of place she felt. She took a moment to absorb her surroundings: the comfortable chairs arranged in a semicircle, colorful brochures neatly stacked on a coffee table, and the faint smell of lavender that was meant to create a calming atmosphere. Gingerly, she approached the receptionist's desk, her heart racing. The woman behind the counter greeted her with a warm, practiced smile that felt both inviting and intimidating. Emily's voice trembled as she stated her name, barely making eye contact. She could feel her cheeks flush as she fumbled with the paperwork in her hands, trying to fill out the forms while battling her self-consciousness. "Just a moment, honey," the receptionist said kindly, typing something into her computer. Emily shifted from foot to foot, feeling as though everyone else in the room could sense her discomfort. The silence seemed deafening, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of pages and hushed conversations between other patients. As she glanced around, she saw women of various ages engrossed in their own worlds, some chatting softly with friends, others immersed in their phones. Each one appeared at ease in this space that felt so foreign to Emily. With every second that ticked by, she became more aware of how small and vulnerable she felt, like a leaf caught in a gust of wind. Finally, the receptionist called her name, jolting Emily from her thoughts. "Emily. The doctor will see you now." Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she nodded and walked towards the door that led deeper into the clinic, each step feeling heavier than the last as she prepared to face what lay ahead. As Emily stepped into the examination room, a wave of both cold air and unease washed over her. The stark white walls felt clinical and sterile, devoid of the warmth she had hoped to find in this place. She noticed the examination table draped with crinkly paper, the bright lights overhead casting an unflattering glow that made her feel even more exposed. A small poster on the wall illustrated female anatomy, but instead of providing comfort, it only deepened her discomfort, serving as a reminder of how unfamiliar this experience was. Sitting on the edge of the table, Emily's heart raced, matching the fluttering in her stomach. She clutched her hands tightly together, feeling clammy and restless as she forced herself to breathe deeply. Thoughts raced through her mind. What if she didn't understand what the doctor said? Would she be able to voice her concerns or questions, or would she simply freeze under the pressure? The thought of stumbling over her words made her cheeks heat with embarrassment. Each second felt like an eternity as she scanned the room for distractions. There was a shelf filled with medical supplies and pamphlets, none of it seemed relevant to her. Instead, she focused on trying to calm herself, reminding herself that this visit was a step toward taking charge of her health. Yet, self-doubt crept in like shadows. Could she really do this? Was she ready? As she sat there, Emily couldn't shake the sense of vulnerability enveloping her like a heavy blanket. She felt the weight of expectation pressing on her chest, an expectation to be composed and mature while grappling with feelings of sheer trepidation. Just as she thought she might lose her nerve completely, a gentle knock on the door broke through her swirling thoughts. Taking one last deep breath, she braced herself for what was coming next, ready to face both the doctor and the questions that haunted her. Just as Emily was steeling herself for the doctor's entrance, the door swung open, and in walked Dr. Alex. At first, she couldn't believe her eyes. He was strikingly handsome, with an easy smile that radiated warmth and confidence. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he wore a tailored white coat that highlighted his athletic build. This was not the older, stern doctor she had envisioned. This was a man who seemed comfortable in his own skin, exuding a charm that caught her completely off guard. "Hi there. You must be Emily," he said with a friendly voice that instantly melted some of her anxiety away. "I'm Dr. Alex. How are you feeling today?" His approach was casual yet professional, and Emily was momentarily taken aback by how effortlessly he bridged the gap between doctor and patient. She blinked, struggling to respond as she suddenly felt even more vulnerable under his thoughtful gaze. I'm okay," she managed to stammer, her cheeks flushing as her mind raced to process the situation. She had expected an intimidating figure, a gruff older man perhaps, but instead, she found herself captivated by this young doctor who seemed genuinely interested in her well-being. As Dr. Alex began to ask her questions about her health and any concerns she might have, Emily's initial shock gradually morphed into a sense of ease. His laughter was infectious, and the way he listened made her feel important rather than insignificant. The stigma she had carried like a weight on her shoulders began to lift. Here was a medical professional who understood the fears of young women navigating their health for the first time. With each passing moment, Emily realized that perhaps this encounter could be less daunting than she had imagined. Dr. Alex's demeanor challenged all her preconceived notions about gynecologists and reaffirmed that even in vulnerable situations, kindness and compassion could shine through. As Dr. Alex continued to ask about Emily's health concerns, the initial warmth of their exchange began to clash with an awkwardness that surfaced as she struggled to articulate her feelings. "So, what brings you in today?" he asked, his tone light and inviting, yet she could feel the pressure weighing on her to respond thoughtfully. Emily opened her mouth, but the words tangled in her throat. Should she mention her irregular cycles? Or perhaps talk about her anxiety surrounding the appointment? Instead, she offered a meek, "I don't know," quickly followed by a nervous laugh that only made her more embarrassed. The sound felt foreign in the otherwise quiet room. Dr. Alex smiled sympathetically, sensing her discomfort. "That's okay. It can be a bit overwhelming the first time," he said, his voice soothing. "Take your time. Maybe start with how you've been feeling lately." His encouragement made her realize that he genuinely wanted to help, but it didn't quell the butterflies in her stomach. She looked down at her hands, fiddling with the hem of her dress. "Well, I guess Emily hesitated, searching for the right words as her cheeks flushed again. "I just feel nervous about everything." "That's perfectly normal," he assured her, leaning slightly closer, making it feel less like a formal inquiry and more like a conversation between two people. Many young women feel the same way about their first visit. "You're not alone in this." Emily appreciated his effort but still felt out of her depth. "It's just. I've heard stories that make it seem really uncomfortable," she admitted, finally lowering her guard just a bit. Dr. Alex chuckled softly, "I promise I'm not here to make it uncomfortable. We'll take it step by step." Despite her lingering apprehension, his humor and candor began to ease her tension. As they continued to talk, the initial awkwardness transformed into a dawning realization: perhaps this experience wasn't going to be as terrifying as she had imagined after all. As their conversation continued, Dr. Alex deftly wove humor into the discussion, breaking down the remaining barriers of Emily's apprehension. "You know," he started with a playful grin, "the most common question I get is whether or not this magically turns me into a mind reader. Spoiler alert, it doesn't." Emily couldn't help but chuckle, the lightheartedness easing her tension. His ability to mix professionalism with an approachable demeanor began to make the room feel less sterile and intimidating. "Just think of me as your friendly guide on this journey," he smiled warmly, leaning back slightly in his chair as if inviting her into a safer space. "We're just two humans having a conversation about health, no judgment here." As Emily gradually opened up about her nerves, Dr. Alex listened attentively, nodding along as she spoke. His responses were laced with understanding that radiated not just from his words but through his entire presence. When she mentioned hearing horror stories about visits like these, he gently replied, "Trust me, every patient has a story. But they don't have to be scary, it's all about how we tackle it together." Following his lead, Emily found herself leaning forward slightly, her hands relaxing from their previous grip around each other. Each laugh shared and every reassuring nod drew her out of her shell little by little. He asked about her interests outside of healthcare and managed to bring some lightness into what had initially felt like an overwhelming medical consultation. As their interaction continued, a powerful shift occurred within Emily. She felt seen and heard rather than merely another patient on a schedule. The blend of Dr. Alex's humor and empathy encouraged her to speak freely, allowing an authentic connection to blossom between them in that clinical space. In that moment, it became clear that this experience could be not just manageable but even empowering, solidifying her resolve to advocate for herself in matters of health moving forward. As their conversation continued to flow, Emily felt closer to Dr. Alex than she had anticipated. His kindness and humor created a bond that made her forget, if only for a moment, that she was in a doctor's office. And then, as if sensing the connection deepening, he leaned in slightly and asked, "So, what do you enjoy doing outside of all this?" "Well," Emily started hesitantly, "I love painting. It helps me express myself when words fail." She glanced up at him, gauging his interest. Dr. Alex's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "Really? That's awesome. I dabble a bit in drawing myself," he said with an earnest smile. "I find it incredibly therapeutic." "What kind of painting do you do?" "Oh, mostly landscapes and abstract stuff," she replied, feeling emboldened by his genuine curiosity. "I like capturing the way light and color interact." With each word, she could see that her passion sparked similar excitement in him. Their exchange evolved into a more personal realm as Dr. Alex shared a story about his own childhood, how he'd drawn comic strips featuring his friends while managing schoolwork and personal expectations. "It taught me early on how important creativity can be for stress relief," he confessed matter-of-factly. Emily found herself drawn to this side of him, a side that resonated with her struggles to balance her artistic expression against societal expectations. In that moment, Dr. Alex was no longer just her physician, he became someone relatable who faced similar pressures and found solace in ways she understood. "Do you ever feel like art is the only way to communicate what you can't say aloud?" she asked softly, inspired by their shared experiences. "Absolutely," he replied earnestly, his eyebrows knit together with intensity. "That's why I always encourage my patients to pursue whatever speaks to their soul." In sharing those moments about their lives filled with creativity and passion, Emily realized this was not just an appointment but a significant shared experience of vulnerability, understanding, and connection, one that was helping redefine how she viewed herself in taking charge of her health journey moving forward. With the atmosphere between them now comfortably relaxed, Dr. Alex turned the conversation toward gynecological health, recognizing that many young women, like Emily, often harbor misconceptions and fears about their bodies and visits to the doctor. "You know, I find that a lot of my patients have questions that they're too embarrassed to ask," he began, his tone casual yet earnest. "Let's clear the air a bit. What kind of things are on your mind?" Emily paused for a moment, realizing how much she had been holding back. The weight of her apprehensions began to surface as she voiced, "I've heard stories that make it sound really scary, like it's going to hurt or that I'll be judged." Her vulnerability was met with a compassionate nod from Dr. Alex. "I completely understand why you'd feel that way," he replied, leaning forward slightly. "But I want you to know that it's my job to ensure you're comfortable. Gynecological exams can seem intimidating, but they are routine and designed to help you stay healthy." He explained the process in straightforward terms, dispelling myths about pain and emphasizing the importance of ongoing health care without any judgment. "Sometimes, women think they should only come in when something feels wrong," he continued. "The truth is regular checkups help identify issues before they become serious. Plus, talking openly about concerns is key." His reassuring words made Emily feel as though her fears were valid and shared by many. He went on to address specific concerns she might have about her body or health practices. By providing clear and relatable answers, he effectively dismantled the barriers built by misconceptions and societal stigma surrounding female health. As they delved deeper into the discussion about common issues and preventative care, Emily felt a surge of relief wash over her. Dr. Alex's straightforwardness not only addressed her fears but also empowered her with knowledge, reinforcing that being proactive about her health was not just important, it was also an essential part of growing up. For the first time in a long while, she felt equipped to take charge of her own well-being. As the appointment came to a close, Emily felt a sense of lightness that she had not anticipated when she first entered the clinic. Dr. Alex summarized their discussion, reiterating the importance of being proactive about her health and encouraging her to come back for regular checkups. "Remember, taking care of yourself is the best way to communicate that you value your health," he said, his tone both gentle and confident. Emily nodded, absorbing every word, her heart swelling with newfound confidence. "Thank you for making this easier," she said sincerely. The weight of her earlier fears began to lift entirely, replaced by a feeling of empowerment that surged through her. She realized this appointment wasn't just a medical necessity, it had become a stepping stone toward self-advocacy. As she stood up to leave, Dr. Alex added with a warm smile, "If you ever have any questions between visits or if something's bothering you, don't hesitate to reach out." His genuine offer made her feel valued as a patient and as an individual. Walking out of the examination room, Emily felt lighter on her feet. The clinic that had loomed large and intimidating now appeared welcoming and vibrant. She glanced at the colorful artwork lining the walls and couldn't help but smile at how far she'd come in just one visit. The encounter had transformed her perception, no longer did she view gynecological appointments as something to dread but rather as an important part of maintaining her well-being. She understood now that asking questions and seeking help were vital components of adulthood. Exiting the clinic into the warm afternoon sun, Emily felt not only a sense of relief but also empowerment, a realization that she was capable of facing challenges bravely and taking charge of her own health journey moving forward. For the first time in a long while, she was excited to embrace what lay ahead. As Emily walked away from the clinic, a wave of reflection washed over her. The sun bathed her in warmth, mirroring the clarity that had settled in her mind. She couldn't help but marvel at how one appointment, once a source of dread and anxiety, had transformed into a pivotal moment in her life. The oppressive weight of self-doubt began to feel like a distant memory, overshadowed by a burgeoning sense of self-acceptance. She recalled the way Dr. Alex had engaged with her, his genuine interest making her feel valued beyond the confines of being just another patient. It struck her how the stereotypical image she had held of doctors, a distant authority figure, had been upended. Instead, he had become a relatable ally, emphasizing that healthcare is not just about checkups, but a partnership grounded in open conversation and understanding. The experience had altered her perspective on healthcare significantly. Previously seen as intimidating and judgmental, medical appointments now felt like an opportunity for growth and empowerment. Emily recognized that taking control of her health was not only about attending appointments but also about feeling confident in seeking answers to questions that mattered to her. This new outlook extended beyond the clinic walls. It had planted seeds of confidence in other areas of her life as well. If she could confront her fears in the doctor's office, what else was possible? The notion that she could speak up for herself resonated deeply within her, igniting a spark that whispered she was worthy of care and attention. Arriving home, Emily felt a surge of inspiration coursing through her veins. Armed with knowledge and a newfound sense of agency, she resolved to continue advocating for herself, not just in health matters but throughout all aspects of her life. With each passing day, she would nurture this growth and embrace the journey ahead, knowing that she was capable of transforming fear into strength and uncertainty into empowerment. As Emily embraced the warmth of the sun on her face, a vision of her future began to unfold in her mind. The experience at the clinic had not only taught her about the importance of prioritizing her health but had also ignited a spark within her to approach life with newfound confidence. She envisioned herself actively seeking out care and knowledge, rather than retreating into uncertainty whenever faced with a challenge. This encounter had set a precedent, one where she could confidently voice her health concerns and advocate for herself. Emily imagined future appointments characterized by open conversations, where she would no longer hesitate to ask questions or express any discomfort. Empowered in her health journey, she was determined to ensure that she would never shy away from addressing her needs. Moreover, the connection she established with Dr. Alex made Emily consider how meaningful relationships could enhance any aspect of life. She envisioned building stronger support networks with friends and family, sharing her journey of self-advocacy and encouraging those close to her to do the same. The vulnerability she once found daunting now seemed like a strength, one that could foster deeper connections. With this transformation came the realization that her newly found assertiveness would inform her relationships moving forward. Whether navigating friendships or stepping into potential romantic partnerships, Emily felt emboldened to communicate more openly and honestly about her feelings and boundaries. This bid for authenticity promised not only greater respect for herself but also encouraged others to reciprocate it. As she moved beyond the clinic experience, Emily felt ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited her in adulthood. With every step, she was determined to carry this journey of growth forward, ensuring that each moment served as an opportunity for learning, connection, and self-discovery. Empowered and confident, Emily sensed that she was finally on the path to becoming the person she always aspired to be, a woman who valued herself and advocated for her health and happiness in every facet of life.